Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and this is going to be the LEGO Star Wars MOC Showcase Episode 6. This is the series I have created to highlight some of the best MOCs I've come across on the internet, so if you find any of the MOCs in this video impressive, all I ask that you go to the links I've included in the description and support the builder by giving them a like, comment, or even a follow. The first MOC we're going to take a look at today is an Endor MOC by WG Productions. The first thing I notice about it is the bunker design. It looks so good. These bunkers are not easy to design. I mentioned this before in this series just because of the weird angles at the very edges of it and especially the pattern on the walls, and I think he did such a good job at it. If you really take a closer look at it, it's honestly kind of surprising he was able to do it so well, given that those 1x8 tiles kind of come down at a slant, yet you still have to kind of, I guess, account for that by having the pattern between it also be built at a slant and has to be ever so slight so where like it doesn't poke out of either side of it. Hopefully that is a decent explanation of what I'm trying to say here, but either way I think he did a wonderful job at it. I also think that using those bracket pieces with the tiles on it for the walls is a pretty good way to get that like ridged pattern right there, so I definitely give him credit for that. The other cool thing about it is the fact that the top of it is completely snot. It's built on its side with some like 1x2 slopes for the very edges of it, so makes it look really solid and sleek, which I can appreciate because literally the entire rest of the bunker is snot. And also the little bunched up foliage at the middle of the top of the bunker, it looks really nice too, so good mixture of colors there. The other thing that's kind of cool about this is how like all the main characters are packed away in the door of that bunker. It really just kind of gives you the essence of Endor, how they had to kind of hide in there and then fend off the Empire for a little bit, so I think it just really sets the scene of what they went through on Endor pretty well. When it comes to Endor MOCs, the ground is always a thing that I'm paying really close attention to just because there are so many different ways to incorporate green and brown elements to represent the grass and the dirt, and it really is the mixture of these two things that can, you know, make or break a MOC like this. And I really do like the usage of those sand green elements in there. You can see that the more sparse areas of the grass are like the sand green areas, and then as you move closer to the edges he uses more mixture of dark green and green slopes of various sizes. So I don't know, it's kind of an interesting technique, but I think I like it. And the really cool thing about the foliage on this MOC are the bushes. I think it's really difficult to get really nice full looking bushes in LEGO just with the types of leaf pieces and tree pieces we have to us available, and this is something that you really don't see too often, but he kind of has these leaf pieces like threaded through each other to make nice full looking bushes. So I actually think that's a really cool idea, and I don't know, if people are doing really any MOC with bushes, this is actually a good way to get them to look really nice and full, so I'll give him tons of credit for that. Another subtle thing I can appreciate about this MOC is just the placement of the minifigures and specifically the different poses that he has them in. I like how that stormtrooper laying dead in the very middle of it kind of has his leg propped up, and his arms look like they're also kind of popped out a little bit. I know some people may not love when people do this with MOCs, but I don't know, I like it. It makes the MOC look a little bit more dynamic, having the figures in poses that you don't typically see in LEGO, and I don't know, I actually do quite like it a bit. And you can see he actually has a few figures, namely the Han, the Endor Rebel up top on the bunker, and then the Stormtrooper to the bottom left of it, kind of in a kneel down position. And I actually really do like when people do that. It's a cool way to get, you know, just a little bit more mileage out of your minifigures and the poses they can make. So I don't know, I just really like the usage of the various poses of these minifigures to really make those like the Rebel and Han Solo look like they're in like an action pose in battle, and then also to make that Scout Trooper and the Stormtroopers really look like they just got wiped out. So all in all, really good MOC. This is a cool little, I wouldn't even want to call it little, it doesn't really look like a little MOC, but it's a cool like Endor vignette, and I mean, it really does inspire me to just build one of those bunkers so I can display a lot of my Endor figures. The next MOC we have is an Imperial Workshop by TastinMan77. Now I looked at the description of this photo, and apparently this is actually going to be a smaller part of a bigger MOC, so I definitely anticipate seeing what he has in store for us with that. But to really just look at this, I love this MOC specifically because it has a ceiling. Any MOC that has a ceiling and lighting is pretty much always going to be one of my favorites, just because it allows you to make the MOC look so realistic. Having it covered allows you to get a picture like this where, you know, you can have a fully enclosed picture and not have like a background of any kind. It looks like its own little encapsulated scene, so I always like that when someone can do that with a MOC. But to set the scene, it looks like these two Imperial technicians are showing off like a laser cutter to the Imperial officer, and I just love like the looks on their faces. They both look just so proud of what they've done, but the officer is just like, no, you can do better. So I like the little story that's being told there just through the minifigures alone. There's so many cool little subtle things like that you can do to tell a story in a MOC, and it's always fun just looking at MOCs and figuring out, you know, what is the builder trying to convey with this MOC, aside from just the cool techniques and stuff. But moving on, there are a lot of just really cool elements to this MOC. The fact that the floor is built snot allows him to get that cool rectangle white pattern around the table to the right side, and it's always nice when people can get various floor techniques in the ground by using snot, so I like that a lot. The other thing that's not nice about this MOC, I think, is just the various things going on in the background. Like to the far right, you have some like drawers and a workbench, and then you also have a workbench, if you look dead center in the MOC, with some tools on it as well as in the background. And I mean, we don't really see any rooms like this in Star Wars, but I feel like this MOC is done in such a way that it's believable. Like if you went into an actual Imperial workshop, like this is what I would imagine it would look like. You know, there's of course the Imperial Death Star wall pattern in the background, and everything is of some blend of white, black, gray, and dark gray, and it just all seems to work together pretty well. One of the kind of subtle things is over to the left side, he has those like tires wrapped around some tubes or poles actually, and I mean that's one of those things that it's not really obvious as to what exactly that's supposed to be, but it looks good and it looks like it belongs. So it's nice when you can achieve subtle details and things like that, where, you know, it doesn't really have to represent something specific, but it looks like you know, just something that or some material that they would have to use, or some parts that they would need to build something. So it all ends up working out actually very well. But all in all, I really do like this MOC. Like I said, when a MOC can have a ceiling and lighting, that just steps it up so much for me. And this is just a cool little scene with some Imperial guys showing off their work. So give 2 thumbs up to this MOC. Next up, we have a Mimban MOC by Hypolite. Just looking at this, there are so many things to talk about on this MOC. So let me just try to dive into this thing, because I knew the moment I saw this picture, I gotta put this thing in the showcase. First thing that sticks out to me is that ACDT at the very top. It just looks really nice. It's a nice little ACDT build. I can imagine that we will eventually get this from Lego, but I think he did a really solid job at it. Also, using those like orange blast pieces as kind of the explosion of the rocket it's shooting out is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that rocket is not Lego. It's probably one of the like aftermarket weapon pieces, which is fine. Like if you have custom weapons, and why not also custom rockets? And I really cannot deny the fact that it looks freaking awesome. So great use of that piece there. The other just general thing about this MOC is the figures. I can always appreciate it when there's a lot of detail put into the figures to really just differentiate them and make them look very detailed. You can see that he added some of like the rebreather pieces to some of the Imperial guys, just to kind of give them a little bit more detail to imply, I don't know, maybe the atmosphere is not ideal for troopers. And also, he has like unique faces on pretty much all the guys, which I can always appreciate. The other cool thing about the Mimbanese guys is just how kind of ragtag they look. We don't really get a great look at these guys in the film, so you can really use a lot of creative freedom as to like what you feel these guys should look like. I know there's like a picture of one of these guys in the visual dictionary for Solo, but I mean, that's just one of them. Who's to tell what, you know, a big group of them would look like and how different they would look from each other. So I don't know, I like this interpretation of them. They look very ragtag, and that use of Pow's like hat piece right there is actually pretty cool, so I like that a lot. If we go on to the next picture, we can see that we just have a much closer look up to like that ACDT as well as the other Imperial guys walking in. And the thing that I like about this picture is the use of those stalk pieces in dark orange at the very bottom. It makes a good like dead grass or like burning grass effect in those bushes right there. I think that looks pretty cool. Also, like you can see he replicated that exploding like blast piece on the minigun the guy has in the very middle of the MOC, and he has a rocket coming out of that too. So I don't know, I really do like the use of that technique. It really just gives you a good action shot of what's going on in the battle. So I don't know, maybe I'll do something like that down the line. If we go on to the next picture, we can see we have Chewie in his prison cell being held captive. Now, it'd be actually quite funny if he was this close to the battle. I imagine, you know, he was probably closer to like the Imperial camp area, but I do like this. This is a good use of space. I always appreciate it when people can find ways to include multiple scenes that we're familiar with in a MOC, especially one that's like not huge like this. So I am definitely an advocate for him doing this. I also just love the fact that those bones are sitting over there. I know that was like a thing in the film, which is really weird to think about, right? Like, Chewie ate people. Do you guys think it took him a while to knock that habit? Like, do you think Han would trust sleeping next to him once they like initially met, or do you think he had to build up that trust that like Chewie wouldn't eat him or something? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. But I don't know, this is a pretty cool scene. He has like a water bucket over there as well. Just lots of really nice small details to really just set the scene of like what Chewie's little cell might have looked like. If we go on to the next picture, we get a nice little action shot of one of the Imperial guys running through the trenches in Mimban, and I actually really do like the rock work. If you look over to the right, I'm typically not really a big fan of people using burps and lurps, but he just used one, so I'm not gonna go in on him for it. And there's actually a really nice mixture of pieces in there as well, with like the dark tan brown and the dark brown. I think it makes a really nice looking combination of colors, so I won't fault him for that. Also, I don't know why, but like that chain overhead actually looks really cool. It's something so simple like that can really just add so much detail to a MOC. It just looks so organic and not really like organized. Like when people can do a MOC like this and have elements like that, for example, you know, like a chain kind of just kind of randomly. This last picture is really just another view of the battle from a different angle, and there's nothing really unique about this picture other than the fact that you get a nice view of one of those Mimbanese guys at the very bottom of it. So that's the one with the POW hat. I like him a lot. He's my favorite guy in this MOC. But really, all in all, I love this MOC so much. I think he did an excellent job at setting a battle scene. There are so many different like action instances in this MOC that just make it look really cool and lively, and also the fact that it's kind of built freeform is definitely a factor in the favor of this MOC. It looks so detailed for something that's not huge, and it really does capture the essence of that battle on Mimban that we see for not very long at the beginning of Solo. So amazing job on this MOC, man. I really can't say enough good things about it. The final MOC we're going to look at today is this incredible AT-ACT by a builder by the name of yoshix. Wow, I remember when I first came across a picture of this thing, my jaw literally dropped. It just looks so amazing. It looks so accurate to what an AT-ACT should look like. He just did a phenomenal job on this thing. I believe he based the general design of this build off of Cave God's AT-AT build, so they're actually probably around the exact same size, which I believe is accurate. The AT-ACT is considerably taller than the regular AT-AT, so this is pretty close, if not exactly, to minifig scale, and I can definitely appreciate that. One of the things that was actually kind of interesting about this build is that looking at it here, it kind of looks like it has a filter because of the colors of it, but I believe he actually built this in dark gray and dark orange bricks, which was kind of surprising to me because my gut feelings about AT-ATs in general is, oh yeah, they're definitely light gray. However, upon closer inspection on the AT-ACTs in the film, they do look a little bit darker than the AT-AT. So I don't know if I would go all the way to dark gray on the color of it in Lego, but I can definitely see some arguments made as to why you would actually want to use this color for an AT-ACT. So I just thought that was a little bit interesting there. I thought that it was just kind of like a world I thought initially that it was just kind of some like weird filter on the photo, but now this thing's actually built in dark gray, which is actually kind of cool. So if you look at the next picture, we can really get a look at the head of it, and this is what really made me want to add this into this video series. I think that he just got the head shaped down almost perfectly, and I mean, it really just blew me away at how nice this thing looked. I mean, the AT-ACT head is not an easy thing to build, as someone who has had to try to like design one, and I just think he did such a good job on it. Like, I don't know, the angles on the front of this thing were just so difficult to get down, and he really just did such an amazing job at it. So that was probably the biggest selling point on getting me to put this thing in the MOC Showcase series. If we go to the last picture, we actually can see something really cool about this build, and that is actually that one of the front legs is bent. Now, I remember when I initially saw this, I was like, oh snap, he has articulation in the legs, but I was looking through actually some of the pictures that he posted, and I believe that this front leg is actually the only one that has articulation, which is kind of funny to think about, but it makes total sense. You know, if you don't want to like you know, have all the legs articulated and kind of risk having some stability? Why not just do one of them, and then you still get a pretty good overall aesthetic for the build? You know, like if you just look at one of the legs and it's bent, it kind of gives the illusion that all of them have the ability to bend, so you kind of get the best of both worlds with, you know, the aesthetic of having the legs bent, but then also the stability with having them be solid builds. So that's actually a really good idea that I really never would have considered with a build like this. So definitely give him tons of credit for being able to incorporate that. And this thing is just, it's just such a beast. Like it's such a giant build. I believe it's like 32 inches tall. So I mean, man, like if I was doing another Scarif MOC, I would definitely take tons of inspiration from this AT-ACT build, because I really do feel that this guy knocked it out of the park. One of the other things that I was actually happy he implemented was just along the base body. If we go back to that first picture, you can see that like at the very front and the very back of the body, it's actually kind of angled. It doesn't just kind of go down straight, which is really accurate to what the AT-ACT should look like. It's one of those small details where, you know, if you're looking at it, having seen an AT-AT for so long, you know, you would just, your mind would just kind of, you know, tell you, oh yeah, the sides are actually just straight. It's not really any different. But like there are actually quite a few differences between this and the AT-AT, so it was really cool that he was able to implement that one, which is really one of the key design, which is really one of the unique things about this design that makes it look distinctively like an AT-ACT. The last thing I noticed is just like he was able to incorporate that weird white design on the side of the cargo crate. We really only see one of these up close, and it looks like it's faded for the most part. So I'd actually be really interested in seeing like what the design looks like when it's not faded. Like, does it make a full circle? Who knows? Who even knows what it's supposed to be? But it is cool that he kind of put that design on the side of the cargo crate. And that's going to finish up the showcase this week, guys. I really hope that you enjoy looking at these awesome MOCs that I found. It's always such a pleasure for me to give a little bit more recognition to these builders because they do such a great job, and you guys can absolutely contribute to that as well by checking out the links in the description. You can go to them, you can drop them a like, comment, or even a follow. Just support them if you really liked any of the MOCs in this videos. That is literally the only thing that I can ask you to do, just to really support these builders. But that's going to finish up the video, guys. If you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.